I know I've been watching Formula One too much recently because yesterday, after Yuki went out and stopped on track like twice, and Red Bull took a what was going to be an exciting race and made it a typical Red Bull victory snooze fest. I know I've been watching F1 for too long because unironically, without thinking, I tweeted out that Red Bull was a bunch of wankers. Just just use that word like it was nothing. I don't know if there's ever been a Latino man to use that word in the history of the universe, but I think I'm going to apply for my UK visa as well now.
Yeah. Okay, good luck. I just went through it, so I can give you some tips.
Perfect.
Welcome back to Break Check. We were recording this on Monday. Happy Labor Day, Juan. Do you have any plans? I know it was your birthday yesterday as well.
Today I was letting myself relax all weekend, just kind of one because I was sick, two because it was my birthday. But I have to move into an apartment in a couple weeks and I don't have furniture. So me and my girlfriend are going to start looking for that. We're going to start making a little bit of a moving checklist, make sure we're not forgetting anything. And I'll be editing. I'll be doing a lot of editing to get a storage room of clips saved up for while Megan is getting situated in London, so we have easy content to post. Busy day. Megan, what do you have going on today?
Nothing big, just getting ready to move across to a new country. I don't think I've fully been here the past, like, I don't know, week or so. Just between like the packing and unpacking and repacking and unpacking and all of that, and trying to figure out how much I can actually bring to the UK. But I do leave but probably by the time this is out I will be midway, so, or on my way. So yeah, so I'm excited. Very excited for the move. It's hard to like be excited when there's so much happening, but I am very excited.
Real quick, just a little funny tidbit how I know that Megan has been both busy and stressed. So we've been doing this for quite a bit now. Like, I think we have a pretty good feel for how the other works. And Megan is very time and detail oriented, and I am not at all. So if there's ever like we generally record right after the races and we generally have stuff out at the same exact time, but if there's ever like if there's ever a need, I'll always be like, hey, can we push this back? Hey, can we move this forward? Hey, can we push this back? And Megan does not like doing that. But yesterday, on my birthday of all, I get a little text that says, hey, I cannot think about recording right now. Can we push it off? And I looked up at Jen, my girlfriend, who was sitting there, and I was like, damn, this is serious.
It's real.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's finally happening for you. I'm glad you only have a couple more hours to think about moving before you finally move.
I know. I can't wait. I can't wait to get those suitcases in my apartment. I can't wait to shop for some bedding so I can sleep at night. I can't wait to just like lay in my nice unair conditioned bed
Oh,
in
lovely.
London. I know. I know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to buy a fan probably. But yeah, no, very excited, but yeah, very stressed. I also forgot that I was doing a draft yesterday until like 15 minutes into it. So my first four picks were not necessarily who I wanted to pick, but that's
Tough.
okay. We're making it work.
Yeah, so busy next couple of weeks for the Break Check team. If content is sporadic and spotty here and there, we are moving. So
We are
just kind of timed
literally
out.
moving.
We're doing it at the same time. So thank you everyone for your patience. Was there any news we have to cover before we get into the race?
Okay, the only real news that I think is worth talking about is the Drugovich versus Herta and who should be an F1 more conversation. I'm not sure how much you know about either of the drivers. Drugovich is I think I don't know if he's winning Formula 2, but I know he has at least 7 or 8 Formula 2 wins this year. I think it's just this year. And then Colton Herta has 7 IndyCar wins. And right now what the negotiation is if Gasly is to be signed on by Alpine and break his contract with AlphaTauri, then AlphaTauri wants Colton Herta specifically, but he doesn't have a supercar license, which you obviously need for F1.
Yeah.
I will say it is more difficult for an IndyCar driver to get a super license, but it also would be more difficult for an IndyCar driver to adjust to an F1 car compared to an F2 car. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but a lot of people think, Drugovich deserves it more because
Yeah.
he has all the wins in F2 and it's a different, not comparable to IndyCar. But, also Colton Herta, I think, is an incredible driver and he's an American driver too. He could make it in it just as well. So I don't know what your thoughts are if you have any.
Yeah, I mean, I think the jump from IndyCar to F1 is a bit, apples and oranges, where
Mm-hmm.
F2 to F1 is small apple to big apple,
Yeah, right.
So also the FIA said that they were kind of willing to grant Colton Herta an exception to get his super license,
Mm-hmm.
but some teams pushing back on that. I can't imagine Mercedes is going to just let that fly. I can't imagine any of the Mercedes power teams are going to let
No.
that fly. I bet McLaren might be okay with it. Colton
Yeah.
Herta is an American. He's American, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. I was gonna say his name's Colton. Yeah, I'm not like super well versed in either driver, so I don't have like the strongest opinions, but common sense tells me that the F2 driver, has
Mm-hmm.
been working and doing well. So he should get a chance before an IndyCar driver.
Mm-hmm.
I think IndyCar drivers coming over, it's a little different. If it's an experienced F1 driver, goes to IndyCar for a bit, then comes back.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Like I could see Daniel going into IndyCar for a minute and then coming
Mhm.
back. And I think that's fine because he's been in F1 before. But yeah, I think if they're not able to grant Herta that super license, I think it will be Drugovich that they put in.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I know Andretti, if they were to create a Formula One team, they want Herta. They've been
Yeah.
very open about that. So, but again, like he needs a super license still. So I think his best chance is to leave IndyCar, go into F2 next year, and then, he has a better chance. But
Yeah.
oh, and then Piastri was finally officially announced by McLaren that they would be signing Piastri on. So
Yeah.
we all knew, and it was pretty there. But a lot of props to Daniel Ricciardo for how he's handled it, especially finding out that they had signed with Oscar back in July, like July 4th. And July 13th is when Daniel Ricciardo stated that he was like, they're racing with McLaren and he was committed and etc. So, like, I think McLaren's just very shady. I know I used to be very outspoken about how much I'm Team McLaren. I'm backtracking a little bit. I'm hopping to hopping off that train a little bit, but
Yeah. Yeah, I feel bad for the McLaren socials person because they announced Piastri, a tweet on social media, and I think McLaren was kind of expecting everyone to be like, "Oh, yay!" Like, no, everyone was like, "Boo, yeah, you suck. No one likes you.
yeah.
We haven't forgiven you." And I hope the fan reaction doesn't, because Oscar Piastri has a very promising career. I hope that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't shake him at first because as much as it sucks, the general population F1 fan
Yeah.
really not on his side to start
Yeah.
his career.
Yeah, and it's pretty unfortunate too because he does have a really good following. I think it's the way the situation was handled. It was a very bold move on his end for what he said, but given the fact that he had already signed with McLaren technically back in July before he even knew Alonso was going anywhere, I think, it was just a lot of miscommunication. More so, I think personally on Alpine side,
Yeah.
because I think, it's not that Alpine was completely blind to his conversations with McLaren. So as soon as they found out that they were losing Alonso, they were like, no kidding, we actually want you back. And I think that's kind of unfair to Oscar. So I hope
Oh
more
yeah.
fans can like recognize that and give him the benefit of the doubt. And who knows, maybe he'll, be a good challenge for Lando, because I think Lando's had it pretty easy the past year and a half, or past 2 years.
My hot take is that Oscar Piastri is going to win a race before Lando.
Honestly, I would put that on there too.
I'm just saying. I would lose my mind if Daniel Ricciardo wins another race before Lando.
I know. I really hope so, man. I really do. I mean, I it's not that I really don't like Lando.
You've turned on him a little.
I turned on him a little. Oh my God. I mean, my guy could take a PR class, like just one. Just
he's
one.
a dick.
I mean, and I know like Lando fans are scary. Lando fans scare me the most, I think, because anytime I see that, or Max, I think, but anytime I see, like heavy aggressive fans on Twitter, the Lando and the Max fans, I think, are probably the most abrasive. But yeah, and he says how he feels, and he's honest, and you have to like Alonso, he's honest. But is it good? Is it right? Is it okay? No.
No, when you have the same amount of F1 race wins as me, what merit do you have to be an asshole to, one of the best F1 drivers of the last 10 years? Also, just real quick before we get into the race, I wanted to say to all my young men F1 fans out there, if there is a lady or a man that you're interested and you want to shoot your shot, do not do it like Lando Norris does it. That man has negative game.
Embarrassing.
Look up his DMs, save them to your phone, and when you're about to message someone you got a crush on, or you're about to message someone that you think is cute, don't do what he did.
I know that some people are like, oh, that's not true. That's not true. I was like, well, there's a lot of misspellings, and I know he doesn't have great grammar. And I don't know, maybe there wasn't a Mickey D's near them, and so they did have to Uber Eats it, and that's not unbelievable in my opinion. So I don't know. Yeah, it didn't work, I don't think so.
No, I mean, typically McDonald's is not the way to a woman's heart. So a taken woman's heart at that.
Taken, yes, I saw that too.
All right, we can get into the race. I just wanted to put out a public service announcement to all our young, impressionable F1 late teenage fans out there. So on to the race now. Bit of a standard starting order for this one. No grid penalties that had our grid all flip-flopped everywhere. Top drivers in the back, mid drivers in the front. Latifi still on back.
I do have one thing. When you said top drivers in the front, we did have Mick Schumacher in P8. So that was a nice surprise, even for him, I think.
Do you want to talk about Haas first in the race?
We might as well. I mean, there's not too much, to be fair, but we can.
I'll start out. Mick Schumacher qualified P8, looking for a big weekend finish, P13.
Okay, come on.
What do we think?
That pit stop screwed him over. It had to be. He said he had good pace, so I think it was him in the car, or like him and the car were fine. I think they screwed him over in the pits, and that's that. Unfortunately,
yeah, I think we talked about this a little last week. Mick Schumacher can suck as long as Kevin Magnussen is sucking as well, which he is. The only thing is, even if Mick does well, it kind of sounds like the Haas seat is Daniel's if he wants it. So bit of a pickle for Mick. I think unfair situation for Mick. I think he shouldn't have to be outperforming Magnussen at a great level to keep his seat. I think he should just be even and be able to keep the seat. But what do you think? The girls are fighting for the second Haas seat.
I know it's tough because these are two drivers I really like. But I did see a clip of Daniel talking to Perez when they were walking on the grid, and they overheard him say, leave out for a year and then come back in 2024. So I wonder if Daniel's already in conversation with the team on the low and is already discussing, coming back in 2024, like if he already has something secured for that year. Because if he can do that, I think that is Daniel's best route. To be honest, he doesn't want to be in the back of the grid car. He wants to be winning. And he only wants to be in F1 if he's still winning, which he thinks he can, but he needs a car for that. So I think it would be better for his mental health too to take a year out of
Yes.
F1 and come back in a better car and, go for it then. But yeah, that's my thoughts. I don't know if yours
My
are different.
my tinfoil hat theory. I'm gonna use
Mhm.
the birthday card for my grandparents. My tinfoil hat theory is that Andretti knows they can come in 2024, and they're gonna bring in Daniel and Colton Herta.
That would be good. They'd honestly be great together, I think.
Daniel is an American driver if he drives for Andretti. But yeah, I saw that video. I thought it was interesting. I think of anyone on the grid, Checo probably has a lot of insight on losing your seat in
Oh,
an
yeah.
unfair way. So I'd be interested to know what he said. But
Mhm.
back to Haas, really disappointing the last couple
Yeah.
months.
I expected so much more from them. I saw in the current standings, I think they're sixth or something, or sixth or
Yeah.
seventh, maybe seventh. But which I'm happy to see them not last,
Mhm.
but the only teams they're beating is Aston Martin, AlphaTauri, and Haas, right? Or no, not Haas, Williams, but
Right. Right.
you know,
Um, that Ferrari powertrain, not the most
no,
not the
no.
most reliable in the world. We can segue that into Ferrari. Not really their big weekend to be talking
No.
about, like not a ton. Still some strategy blunders, leaving a tire gun out in the pit lane for Checo to run over, pitting Carlos and only having 3 tires.
Retires.
How'd you feel?
Mad, disappointed, devastated. It was kind of, it's not even funny anymore when we joke about how we know some Ferrari's going to mess up their own race, and then they actually do it, and it happens every single weekend. It is hard liking Ferrari, and I don't even think I like Ferrari anymore. I just like the drivers, and I just wish they were in a different car at this point because it's so hard to see them fight. I don't know if you saw the clip. It was before the race before they even did the walk. But
Yeah.
Charles was sitting in his car or his garage, and he just looked miserable. Like the man was so zoned out and just like he just looked like he either hadn't slept, he just looked exhausted. I mean, and I would be too if I was driving a Ferrari at this point.
That is a broken man. I think recent interviews kind of indicate he has given up the World Driver Championship aspirations this
Yeah.
year. I think he knows Mercedes is kind of biting at their heels in the
Yeah.
constructors. I feel for him. I don't dislike Charles and I don't dislike Ferrari, but they are very easy to poke fun at. And
Mhm.
I just feel gross doing it now.
I know. It's like they're getting enough crap from everywhere else,
Yeah,
So
it's like attacking a wounded dog, you know?
I know.
Like um Carlos racking up penalties. Is Carlos, I wanted to ask you this, is Carlos the next like bad boy rebel driver on the grid as he
Ooh,
gets older?
yeah, I could see it. I could see him being not entirely like Alonso, but kind of like Ocon, where Ocon can get pretty aggressive. And I think we'll see more of that from Carlos in the coming years.
Yeah, definitely. Especially someone, I think Carlos has maybe gotten the short end of the stick at times because he
Mhm.
is very fast for a number 2 driver, not fast enough to be a number 1 driver. I
Yeah.
think that kind of leaves you in a weird spot. But I think as he gets older, and we're starting to see it this year, I think he's gonna go
Mhm.
rogue a little bit more.
Yeah, he's like Checo, but with a little bit better of a pace, in my opinion.
Yes, yes. We can talk about Red Bull.
Yeah.
Uh I don't like them.
No, I like it's hard. I don't want to say I like despise any one team, but Red Bull makes it hard to support Red Bull and or not have issues with their decisions and or actions and or anything else.
And it's not Max and Checo. I like both of them.
No,
I like Checo
yeah.
a lot. both very good drivers. Max, one of the best drivers we've ever seen, honestly. Christian Horner and Helmut Marko and like their upper brass are extremely difficult to like.
They make it so hard. The only thing was it Marco or was it Otmar that had made the comment about Latifi?
Oh, that was the Alfa Romeo team principal.
Oh, the Alfa Romeo team principal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. We can go back to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they make it really difficult between the calls, the strategy, the way that they try and play everything off as it's like anyone else's issue or problem, but not theirs.
I know it was just coincidence. I know there's not some big conspiracy going on, but it just really sucks that for one of the first times this year, since Ferrari was really challenging earlier this year, we had a race where to win the race, Max was gonna have to pass Lewis at the end. Like Lewis was on a great one-stop pit strategy. Like he was managing his tires well. The Mercedes, I saw some data before we started recording. The Mercedes, George and Lewis were 1 and 2. Lewis 1, George 2 on pace on the whole field. They were the fastest car on the track. And Max on the two-stop strategy was going to have to pit, get behind Lewis, and pass him to win the race. We were set up for a great finish. And then whatever happened over at AlphaTauri happened, and we just kind of got robbed of that.
Yeah.
I know it was just coincidence, but man, in the moment,
it really screwed them over. The way it played out, like putting him back in the pits or whatever, fixing the seatbelt, letting him go when they said he was fine, even though he said he wasn't, and then like almost immediately having him pull off to the side because there was an issue. Also, why was AlphaTauri gaslighting Tsunoda on national television? Like he was like, "There's an issue. There's literally like they're shaking, they're wobbling, like my tires aren't on," and they're like, "No, it's fine," and then they still pitted him anyways and did fix it, and then like had him pit right immediately after because there was an issue. It's like he said there was an issue. Why did you say it was fine then?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know.
You know something I wonder, and again, here my tinfoil hat. Does Christian get the AlphaTauri radio during the race?
I don't think so, but
because that feels like it should not be allowed if he does.
Right, 100%. They should be separate. Yeah, I don't know. I have fishy. I have a little conspiracy that
what a rip.
I know. I feel like the AlphaTauri team don't like Tsunoda. Like I just think like some of those upper management people just don't like him, and I think they've already been outspoken about it for the past year and a half now. But I have a conspiracy that they are intentionally fucking up with Tsunoda and his race and his car and whatever to make him look bad, so they have an excuse to fire him and take on someone else next year.
I don't think that's out of the question. I have one of the reasons I really, 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 really dislike Helmut Marko. One, he just kind of says awful things all the time.
Yeah.
But specifically with Yuki, he uses a language, and Yuki is a smaller guy, like many people of Asian descent. Yeah. And he's like very friendly, kind of cute, he's a super sweet guy. And just the way that Helmut Marko talks about him, like he's like a little kid, and it's like very infantilizing. And like, I don't want to say it's like racist, but at what point are you just like, dude, you would never talk about anyone else like this?
Well, and you have to give these drivers a lot of credit, especially Yuki, because his English was probably the worst of all of the drivers because he wasn't as fluent or didn't practice it as much as some of these other drivers. But in F1, you have to speak English because your engineers are speaking English to you. And so it's difficult for Yuki. And and they talk a little bit about it in Drive to Survive. And I think it really highlights a bigger issue that he's had there is that there's like that lack of patience because he is trying to adjust speaking English and hearing the radio and decipher what they're saying in English while driving like 100 miles an hour. And it's difficult. You have to give him a lot of credit for that because it's not easy to learn a new like to become that fluent in a language where you can just understand what they're saying on the radio.
Yeah, I just Red Bull
Yeah,
doesn't set him up for success.
no,
I have a lot of issues with Red Bull. One of them being that they have a second team that will. There's 10 teams on the grid, but there's essentially 9 because one will never be above Red Bull, and that's
right.
Red Bull's junior team. Like they would just never let it happen.
No, they
And
have way too much influence.
yeah, I don't know. I don't like that they have a second team.
No, I mean, like, and yes, like some people are like, oh, well, the Williams is kind of like a second team to Mercedes, but it's really not. And
Mm-mm.
they never, mess with George's race. I mean, to be fair, this car was really bad, but even if he was doing really well in the Williams, they would never mess with it or give orders, for it to sway another way. And I don't like that Red Bull can do that. I agree. It's not favorable.
Latifi essentially lost Lewis his championship last year. Like that's not
Yeah,
Mercedes's
seriously.
junior team. Um, but yes, like I don't know Alfa Romeo's team principal's name, but like he said, sometimes it's the car, sometimes it's the driver, and sometimes it's Latifi.
And also, I'm sorry, if someone is publicly saying that and everyone is laughing because it's so true and so funny, how are you as a team still considering keeping Latifi? Like that's embarrassing. It is so embarrassing for Williams to keep Latifi on the grid. I'm sorry. And if any of you are Latifi fans, why? I don't know. I mean, I know he's nice, but you know what? So is Juan. You don't see him in a car, like a lot of my dad's really nice, but I don't see him driving an F1 car. Some people just shouldn't be in F1, and that's okay. He's had his chance for 3 years now. Let someone else have it. That's put Nick DeVries in, please. Like, get him in that car because this is his last chance, I think. So
I think Latifi's going to be back next year.
I'm gonna riot. I'm gonna
I
be
I
so.
I have long been saying I do think he's going to score a point. I think he's going to score a point, and I think he's going to be back next year, and he's going to get a whole Drive to Survive episode about him.
I'm gonna get the most expensive sweater, like Williams Latifi sweater, if he scores a fucking point this year. I'm serious.
Yeah, we've both said we'll buy merch if he scores, but so Mercedes, Lewis looked like he was in contention to win the race. The safety car with Tsunoda that we talked about put a little bit of a wrinkle in that plan, but then Bottas came to the rescue, right?
Mhm.
He DNF another safety car, gives them a chance to pit for fresher tires.
Mhm.
They pit George for softs. They did not pit Lewis. They prioritized track position, which they often seem to do. I
Yeah.
believe it's kind of what they did in Abu Dhabi,
Mhm.
and it did not work.
Mhm.
Lewis finishes in 4th, George in 2nd. I mean, Max and Lewis and Charles came out on new softs compared to Lewis's old mediums. What do we think?
I see. So when Toto explained it, which obviously he will back his team, but the way he explained it was better to risk having Lewis in front and Russell freshly tired up with Verstappen in the middle versus to pit Lewis and then have them both behind and neither of them like able to compete against
Yeah.
Verstappen. And I get that. But then you know what? Lewis, if that was the case, Lewis still would have been in second. But having him on those cold tires in the front, seriously, probably flashbacks for him for Abu Dhabi. So I don't blame him for getting upset on the radio the way he did because I would
Mm-hmm.
have been too, honestly.
Then he came back and apologized, said, hey, that was
Right.
heat of the moment. Lewis, as he always is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one, Bonotto at Ferrari should take notes. Toto came out on TV, admitted he made a mistake, but walked through the reasoning why they did
Mm-hmm.
it. Something that Ferrari will not do every time they mess up.
No.
I thought that was a look of real leadership, and it was kind of refreshing to see.
Yeah. I'm glad that they did that. Maybe, they're trying to take some accountability this time and maybe we'll see some progress or change in Monza. I'm not getting my hopes up for them anymore, but we'll see. At
Yeah,
this point, George, I think, is going to be in second. I know someone from the Undercut podcast had posted about that, and I agree at this point.
yeah. Mercedes is fast though on race
Mhm.
day, at least.
On
I
race
think
day.
there's something to build on. Toto said that he's more focused on next year at this point. He's admitted that's what really matters to him. It would be nice if they came in second in the constructors, but he said that is not the goal. He would rather finish higher next year.
And that's good. Honestly, good for them. That's humbling, I'm sure. But
oh, absolutely. Sometimes you need a little reality check to get you back on track. I hope that's what happens with Mercedes.
I do want to say too, in qualifying, Alonso was out of Q1 because he was stopped by, he had like slower cars that ruined his qualifying time. And karma's a bitch sometimes, Alonso. That's all I have to say. Because he's done that like 5 times this year to people. And I just thought that radio was hilarious. When I heard that, I was like, oh.
I going off Alonso, I texted Megan that I think it's really funny that Fernando Alonso has turned into like the midfield boogeyman. Like, he is just so much better than any driver in the midfield, and his Alpine is actually kind of fast, that if you are between 6th and 14th and you see Alonso behind you, he's gonna pass you. And if he gets in front of you, you will never get around him again.
It's him and gone. Like, once he's there, he's gone. So
but yeah, that's all the race recap I had. I'm looking at our timer. Do you think we can wrap up in a minute and a half?
Yeah, we can wrap this up. Next time my background will be in London, so see you guys then. It'll be just Juan next weekend because I will be mid-moving, so can't record. But yeah, see you guys next time. Thanks for listening.
Follow us at Break Check F1 on all socials. Megan does a great job posting regularly and consistently. And see you next week. Just me. I don't know what that's going to sound like.